Hey everyone, I'm Mia from Jeddle, and in this video we're going to be breaking down the 2022 HSC PDHPE papers multiple choice questions. My general multiple choice strategy, which was advised by my teachers, is to read the question first and formulate an answer in your head without even looking at any of the options. After you've done this, you can look at which choice best suits your answer of the question. However, sometimes it's difficult to do this, so process of elimination is necessary. Multiple choice was actually one of my weaknesses when studying for PDHPE. I found I always overthought the question and ended up picking the wrong answer. So another piece of advice is to go with your gut instinct and don't change your answers. Question 6 of the 2022 HSC paper said, a person started to feel numb on one side of their body. They had blurred vision and difficulty speaking. What disease was this person most likely experiencing? After reading this question, I was able to straight away identify that this person is experiencing a stroke, so the option that best fit my answer was cerebrovascular disease. However, if you didn't know this, that's okay, because we can analyse some of the other options and use process of elimination. Option A is coronary heart disease, which is a chronic disease characterised by chest pain. This doesn't fit the description of the question, so I can immediately rule it out. Option C is congenital heart disease, which is a birth defect which only occurs in infants. Again, does not fit this description. And option D is peripheral vascular disease, which is caused by pain, numbness, and discoloration of the extremities. And I know this often occurs in smokers. Again, does not fit the description, so my final answer is B. Question 8 asked, which of the following is an example of an environmental determinant being changed to effectively target groups most at risk of cardiovascular disease? The key in this question is identify that they're asking for groups at risk. Option A is talking about primary schools, so young people who are definitely not a group at risk of CVD, ruling option A out. B is increasing the number of cycleways and walking paths in all local government areas, which I've identified, okay, this is definitely an environmental determinant. It's targeting groups at risk in the local government area, and I'm going to keep that in mind because this might be my answer. Looking at option C, providing Australians with a $50 voucher to access sporting facilities within their community. This is tricky because it does sound like it's targeting groups at risk and cardiovascular disease. However, we can identify that because it's talking about a $50 voucher, it's more likely a socioeconomic determinant rather than environmental. Option D is developing legislation that stops the sale of tobacco products to people under 21 years of age. Like option A, this is targeting young people who we know is not a group at risk of CVD, so my answer is B. Question 10 asks, which strategy could the Australian government implement to most effectively address the inequity of healthcare access for socio-economically disadvantaged individuals? I personally found this a very tricky question in the HSC because it seemed like all the options fit the question. The key thing to note in this question is that it's talking about inequity of access, so that's something I kept in mind when looking at the options. Option A says decreasing the Medicare rebate for health services. This is one of the most obvious options to rule out because increasing the Medicare rebate would make it less accessible for socioeconomically disadvantaged individuals. Option B is supplying free child immunisations to all Australian families, which is a great method, however, it's already implemented, so I ruled that one out. Option C is providing additional funding to train more doctors and nurses. So while this is true, it does not necessarily address inequity of access. And finally, option D, which is the answer, increasing the number of medical centres with doctors who bulk bill patients. This requires an understanding of what bulk billing actually is, which is when Medicare covers all of your payment and you don't have to pay anything out of pocket. Question 14 is another very tricky one, and it says the diagram shows a scoring system that a coach is using to access the kicking accuracy of players in a team. It's got a bit of a description and then asks which row in the table represents the player who is most likely to be in the cognitive stage of skill acquisition. How I approached this question was to look first at the 6-point column. If we're looking at a cognitive learner, which is one of the most basic stages of skill acquisition, I don't think my player is going to be scoring much in this 6-point region. This means I can rule out option A and D straight away. Looking at B and C now, I could go about this in two different ways. The first way is to count up the total tally in the 0-point and 1-point column and seeing which player scored the majority in this region, because this is going to indicate to me that they're not a very good player, they're most likely in the cognitive stage. However, another characteristic of cognitive players is that they are very inconsistent in their results. So looking at this, I can see that player B is very inconsistent in the areas where they're scoring, opposed to player C, who is getting quite a lot in the 3-point region. This means that I can rule out all the other answers and stick to B, which is the correct one. The final question we're going to be analysing is, the table shows the physiological adaptations an athlete has experienced as a result of an 8-week training program. Which of the following identifies the principles of training most likely to have been applied in the training program to produce these adaptations? This one's tricky because most of the training principles can be applied to receive these adaptations. However, we're going to be analysing to find the ones that most apply and best suit the question. Similarly, in option D, they've included warm-up and cool-down, which is, although important in training, it doesn't necessarily produce these adaptations. So that's something that I'm going to rule out. Now I'm left with option C, which is specificity, progressive overload, and training thresholds. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and check out jedl.com for more resources.